What if we told you that this April should be like the playoffs for the Cubs? We're going to explain why next.
Are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are tuned in to Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Alongside Sam Olber, I'm Matt Cozy. Please support the show and be a part of the Locked On Cubs community by following on all audio platforms. And you can watch, subscribe, and leave a comment on YouTube. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion into discussion with you on all things Cubs. Cubs and Reds on Wednesday was rained out. It will be made up as part of a doubleheader on September 1st, which feels like a lifetime from
Will
now.
the Cubs be around? Will the Cubs be playing 500 ball by then?
Wow. Yes. Well, stay tuned for that. And so what we know is the Cubs are 2-3. And now, given that one game has been extinguished from the schedule, there's now 27 total in April. We're going to break down series by series and explain why these games are so important. Sam, good to be with you. This is going to be our last episode of the week. After this one, we'll be back on Monday and a lot to get to.
Yeah, two quick things before we get down to brass tacks here, as they say. First, I'd like to wish a happy Passover to those who celebrate for our listeners. And secondly, even though they are a South Side rival of ours, I would like to, on this show, on behalf of yourself and me, publicly congratulate Liam Hendricks because he was cancer-free today. Mm-hmm. He announced he was cancer-free. Awesome. So excited to watch him pitch soon. Yeah, look, Matt, here's the thing with April, okay? People now in your beautiful cold open, you said April's like the playoffs. It's not like the playoffs, but it's kind of in this sense. Hear me out before you roll your eyes, listeners. People say, hey, the other day, Monday night, when we blew that ball game, hey, it's just 101-62. That's not right. That's not correct. And here's why. The Chicago Cubs are what we call a tweener team. They, by the trade deadline, if all goes right, they could be buyers. Uh-huh. If all goes poorly, they absolutely could be sellers. So really, it's a shortened season to getting to about mid-July to see, hey, is this team around or they're not? So it's really like an 80 or so game season leading up to that point. And every game you drop, you become closer and closer to another year of meaningless August and September baseball. That's why you and I have been so strict and so poignant about how important April is, because if you do go 15-13 or 16-12 or something like that, it gives your fan base hope. But not only that, it proves to your front office, hey, you know what? Let's see what this team could do. Let's take a break from PCA. Let's take a break from the prospects and see if we can't, figure out a way to play October baseball. So when you give away a simple game like the other night, that's why we were so frustrated about it. As far as today goes, just briefly, I think you could take the glass half full or glass half empty perspective. I'm going glass half full. Yeah. I don't like facing a guy like Hunter Green after a bad outing. I think the Cubs caught him maybe a small break. Clear your mind. It's been a weird 5 games with a lot of publicity, a lot of things with the manager. I think everyone could use a 2-day break. Little concerned about over rest from the relievers. Guys like Fulmer and Boxberger haven't pitched in weeks outside of the one hitter Boxberger faced the other day. But overall, yeah, you comment on that. That's why April matters, because this team has a middling roster. And if you're a team like, say, St. Louis right now that's 2-4, nobody in St. Louis is worried about that. They're focused on October baseball. They know that they have a roster that's good enough to play deep into October. And they're going to figure out a way to at least get to the postseason. They're not worried about that. We don't know about this roster, so we need as many positive vibes as possible early to avoid that sell-off and avoid a very difficult lockdown August and September.
I do think that this is probably one of the larger areas in which where other shows zig, we zag. because I think the initial reaction or the initial response would be from the other day, well, it's only game 4.
Right.
In which I would say, in the most concise way, exactly. It is game 4. So if you get these in the bag now, you build yourself a little bit of a cushion or whatever you would like to call it, a buffer, a cushion. I'd like to call it a good start to the campaign.
Yeah.
And now there's 27 games in April since the one was banged on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you the series. I haven't made any edits since the last time we did this. So that would come out to actually a below 500 record, which on the surface, that's average or below average, right? According to the math.
Well, yeah.
But I think that type of record would put them in the conversation after what to them would be the first 27 games.
Yeah.
And I do think there is a juice that is created by the start that you get off to. I know that today's game, in my mind, did have a little more significance than a game 6 probably should. But again, I'm going off the results, and it's a results business. And the fact is, if they lost Wednesday, 2-4.
Ooh.
If they won, 3-3. Now, to me, as an audiophile, that just sounds so different. 3-3, 2-4. Now, I'm not really trying to construct my argument around that, but let's pull up a stool to the bar and talk Cubs. If they were 2-4 after Wednesday, how would you feel? 100%, it would be a different feeling than 3-3. Yes, 95% of the season is left. That's why we're trying to make this point. Is because this early with this type of team, this type of roster, and maybe on April, the last day of April, it does look different.
Right.
We're going to go through some offensive numbers in a little bit, some of the highlights so far. But I do think now this 27 games is critical.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even want to we could do the hypothetical and play the sound game. How does 11-16 sound after April?
Well, no. So let me make
how is 10-17, folks?
No. So that's my second point. So when I said it's like 50% of the playoffs, that's exactly what I meant. You can't win anything in April, but you could lose it all. Mm-hmm. They start 10-17. That's basically like them losing.
That's it.
That's like losing a playoff game because in the sense that your season's over. I don't think this team's good enough to come back from 10-17. I just don't. I don't
see any evidence of that.
But I do think this,
but
I do think this team is good enough where if they get some good vibes going, get good pitching, get Suzuki back, and get some confidence, I do think they're good enough to keep their heads above water for a really long time. And I think that's kind of what we're all hoping for, right? And just to make one simple correction, 4 games, whatever you said, 95+% of the season. It's not 95% of the season because if they continue to go 2-3 every game, which they won't, but if they do, by August, it'll be a completely different season, and it'll be guys that aren't even going to be on the team next year that are up, and we're coming up before the show saying, hey, what do you think about Schwindel's hot streak? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I just meant the percentage of games remaining.
I know what I mean. I know, but that's my point. Everyone says percentage of games remaining, but don't think of it like that. Think of it
that's
like
everyone's defense.
Yeah, from now until like July 1st or even mid-July.
Okay.
That's really this team's season. And then if they get through that and then they don't trade away the whole team, obviously Hap's an exception, then and they're playing games in August where we're still talking about standings, then that's a very small but very real victory and success for this team. And so that's why we've been taking April seriously and maybe a little too seriously, but we're locked on. We're locked in, pun intended. And listen, I'll settle in.
I do think that sounds different to people, but oh well.
Yeah, and I'll say, well, because I know how this goes. I mean, this team started out 6-4 last year, and by May we were playing meaningless games.
Right.
My pet peeve, all I ask is that the Cubs are competitive, and we don't have. We took over the show last year. What was it? July 4th, July 5th?
The first episode was published on the 5th.
July 5th. We did not cover one meaningful game.
0.
And you also have to understand the source, guys. We do a show on this so we're going to take April really seriously, because the one thing that we know is that everyone cares about these games because they're early in the year and everybody's still alive, right? So, as a product, as a show, as a fan, everything, there's nothing worse than running out a lineup like we ran out in August and September and having to pretend that stuff matters. We want to win. We're winners. We're winners on this show.
Would we like to? My freshman baseball team is 8-0. Would we like to?
Wow.
Would we like to put a unofficial timestamp on that? So, like you mentioned, July 1st.
Nah, just let it. We'll know. We'll know.
Just let it be, like the Beatles.
Just Paul McCartney it and make sure that just keep your I don't even know what the record is. Let's just keep our heads above water. And if Milwaukee keeps playing like this, that we'll be sunk by Memorial Day.
Okay. Good.
I mean, they're not losing ball game.
Yeah, they're off to a good start.
Their young guys are playing like Willie Mays.
Okay.
They'll cool off. The league will adjust. Jeez.
Some laughs here.
Mitchell hit a walk-off homer today. Who in the bleep is Mitchell?
Right.
I mean, he looks like Willie McCovey.
Well, there's new players, and yeah, we're starting to get to know who they are.
Yeah, and I'm not liking it. I didn't know those guys were going to be.
How about Terang?
Terang, I picked
sounds
him up.
Sounds like a sauce on your salad.
Yeah, and he steals bases like Ricky Henderson.
Terang sauce. Right. Oh wow! So you're just getting all the references in.
No,
okay.
I'm just a little nervous about what's going on up north.
22 games left in April. 3 with the Rangers this weekend. We're going to preview that later in the show. Coming up next, we start to dive into some offensive numbers. Guess what? The Cubs offense, which maybe was the largest question mark entering the campaign, they're off to what we could call a good start. They're hitting well. We'll explain why next. Today's episode is brought to you by our new partners at eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle, as every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need is right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 120 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride with eBay Motors. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Welcome back to Locked On Cubs. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. In your ears, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. The Cubs are doing well offensively, Sam. 7th in average, 6th in OBP, and 15th in slugging. That's in the MLB rankings. Again, 7th in average, 6th in on base, 15th in slug. And they have 3 players that are among the most productive in the game so far. Dansby Swanson, Ian Happ, and Patrick Wisdom. I could zoom in on those in a minute. But what are your thoughts initially on the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, 2 very contrasting series. First, cold weather, Brewers, Burns, Woodruff, tough. Then they get to Lauer, and then you go to Cincinnati for 2 and face 2 4A starters. I would say offensively, maybe a tad bit better than I expected early on, but it's so early, obviously. I think, I didn't expect Swanson to hit like this early. So that's been a huge bonus. Happ's been Happ.
Awesome,
pretty good. Wisdom had a really good spring. He's continued it. I like Bellinger's ABs. I think this series coming up against the Rangers will be a good tell because that's kind of a middle, right? You had extreme kind of tough with Milwaukee, extreme kind of easy with Cincinnati in that bandbox arcade of a stadium against, Sessa and Overton.
Mm-hmm.
And now I think you face I think Evaldi and, it's just kind of some just like regular solid big leaguers. So we'll see how they go there. But overall, it's been good. They've hit the ball, 15th in slugging. They're not a team that's going to slug, but I think they've been fine there. Bellinger's been fine. I'd like to see a little bit more action on the bases. Like
Yeah.
I think Swanson's had a couple opportunities to stretch doubles into triples, and obviously you don't want to be reckless out there. But I thought kind of one of the selling points was this team was going to really run a lot, be really aggressive. And we haven't seen a ton of that. I mean, they don't really have a ton of team speed. I mean, Horner's probably the fastest guy.
Well, he has 2 steals, and that's really about it.
Yeah, so I'd like to see a little bit more hit and run, a little bit more action on the bases. But overall, I think, if we were just doing a very small grade of everything we've seen so far, I think offense would qualify as the best nice surprise, like given what we expected. I mean, the starters, we've had 2 good starts and 3, very mediocre ones, to be kind, if not worse.
Yeah.
The bullpens had their issues. I think the defense overall has been solid.
I think so.
We've discussed the managing at nauseum. And so the offense, it's been good. It's been fine, but we'll see. Since it's like last year, you go to Colorado, you go to Cincy, you're going to put up numbers.
Yes, maybe some inflation there.
Yeah.
But I am pleasantly surprised, all things considered, and I'll take it right now.
Hosmer's hit.
Yeah, he has. So, Swanson, Happ, and Wisdom are all a top 25 in OPS among players.
Yeah, too early for that.
Happ has 7 walks. He's accepting his walks.
Always
Swanson has hit the ball hard the
Yes.
most consistently.
Oh, yeah. Fastballs.
And
He doesn't miss fastballs, man.
he's so good on fastballs. And, Wisdom with 4 extra base hits already.
Oof.
So, yeah, I got a couple more. So, Horner, 290. He's got a couple doubles. And then Hosmer, 4 runs batted in his 4 games played, and 294 clip.
Yeah. I mean, if Hosmer could hit above 275, 280, there's value there. He's just going to hit it on the ground. Somebody who's not hot.
Mancini.
Yeah, no, but somebody who's not hot, and it has nothing to do with this. And I could have had Nico Horner on my fantasy team, and I took former Chicago Cubs shortstop Javier Baez, who's hitting about 118.
Oh, he's not off to a good start.
Hopefully he could remember that the object of this game is to hit it over people.
Or get on base a tad.
Yeah, yikes.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, so on that end of the spectrum,
Mancini, you don't like?
we've talked about Bellinger's ABs. I think they're mostly encouraging, despite some of his misses.
You have him on the cold.
plate.
You have him on the cold list?
Yeah, Bellinger would be on the cold list, but not like
What?
where I'm getting like frostbite.
Well, he had a home run the other night, and he
leads this team in runs batted in with 5.
And he had 2 base hits yesterday. I mean, listen, the guy.
I wouldn't say he's on the cold list. No,
the guy hit what, like 217 last year? He's not exactly Tony Gwynn.
Right? No. Okay. So I'll take that back. But Mancini's off to a poor start.
Is he?
Yeah, he's like bottom 20 in OPS.
Yeah, it's early. He'll be all right. I mean, his at bats haven't been. Well, the guy who's taken the worst at bats in this club by a mile has been Jan Gomes, and it's
just a report card so far.
Yeah, no. Jan Gomes' at bats so far this season have been a disaster.
He almost had that 1 grand slam. That was it.
No, the other night I almost felt sorry for him.
Oh wow, was that bad?
Yeah, he was the only guy making outs.
Wow. Yeah. All right, so this is the last episode of the week, so we're going to preview Cubs Rangers coming up next. We have a new sponsor, another one, 2 new ones today. This one here on Locked On Cubs, let's introduce you to Sorare, a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 MLB teams. Sorare. Sorare is also partnered with MLB stars Juan Soto and Julio Rodriguez to serve as brand ambassadors, which is pretty big for a new company. And unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, Sorare managers truly own their fantasy experience, collecting, buying, selling, and competing with player cards against opponents from around the world to win epic rewards. Win or lose, you still own those cards, and there's no cost to play. Head to sorare.com/locked on. That's spelled SORARE.com to draft your team of free player cards, set your lineup, and start competing today to win epic rewards. Again, that's sorare.com/locked on to start playing today. Welcome back to Locked On Cubs, a Thursday episode. Thank you whenever and wherever you may be listening. And this is the last episode of the week, and I would like to formally announce I'm still putting together a game plan in terms of my attire, if I should debut the Locked On hoodie or not, which, Sam, I hope to see you soon so I could hand that off to you. But I will be in attendance for Friday's game.
Wow, that's awesome.
Okay, so I'm going to be at Friday's game.
That's great because you can't watch it. It's an Apple TV affair.
Oh, wow. I'm going to be on the 300 level. I
300 level? Gee, I mean, we make the big bucks doing this show.
Hey, 300 level is a great spot.
Oh, it is. Okay.
The first part of the upper deck, row 3, aisle C.
Oh, okay.
And so it's a good spot.
Okay.
And so would love to interact with the people.
Yeah, come say hello to Matthew.
Okay, so this is really the first time I believe we're kind of out there. And so many more, especially hopefully this summer.
And the week after, if you're in Los Angeles, come say hello to me at Dodger Stadium.
That's right.
I do have one person.
Somebody reached out, I thought.
Yeah, I will be meeting up with somebody.
That's cool. So I'm going to be at Friday's game, 121st pitch. Who's pitching that Friday, you ask? Marcus Stroman against Nathan Eovaldi. Saturday, it'll be Justin Steele versus Martin Perez. And Sunday, Jamison Tyone versus John Gray. The Rangers are 4-2 on the season. They swept the Phillies out of the gate and lost 2 of 3 to the Orioles. Rangers, Sam.
Yeah, very good, solid, fair pitching matchups. Nothing that's super overwhelming for the Cubs. This is a series that I really think the Cubs should win. They should win 2 of 3. I know the Rangers are good. They got some very talented players, some guys to watch on their team, just from my own viewing experiences.
Simeon and Seager in their second years.
Simeon, Seager, Lau can really hit.
Garcia.
Adolis Garcia is a kind of a few tool guy. He can hit and run. They're a talented team, no doubt. Probably definitely a better lineup on paper than the Cubs have. And when you throw DeGrom in there, he obviously changes the pitching figure, but you're not facing him. So,
right.
Eovaldi, Stroman, I think that leans Cubs.
Mm-hmm.
Steele, Perez is very even. Perez had a very good year last year, but he's a pitch-to-contact lefty. He's not going to strike out a ton of guys. The Cubs can do damage against him. John Gray's tough as a righty, but I expect Tyone to be much, much better this Sunday than he was last. I think it's a good matchup for the Cubs. I expect a good weekend from the Cubs, and at the very least, hoping that the next time we record this show, we're a 500 ball club.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and we're going to recap.
And the par this weekend is 2 out of 3.
That's a par.
Yeah, par's 2 out of 3. I'm expecting the Cubs to win this series at home. You cannot open with back-to-back home series losses to start your season unless if they were facing DeGrom game 1 and it was like DeGrom, Eovaldi, Perez, and say, that makes it a little tougher. But
right.
You're not. You've had 48 hours of rest. So I don't hear any of this, about
everyone's rested.
Yeah. I hope almost not too rested and unsharp from the bullpen side, but they should come out. Should be a good crowd at Wrigley. It's Easter weekend. Hopefully some people get off work Friday, get to 35,000, and take care of business against these American leaguers.
And we'll recap all things Cubs Rangers on Monday's episode. That's the next time we'll be back. All right, I'm looking forward to Friday, especially. I will be in attendance.
Oh, wait. Hey, can I ask you one thing? Will you be at the game on Friday?
I will.
Oh, okay, you'll be there. Just wondering, in case you haven't mentioned it 8 times.
Well, I'm not going to post it on social media.
Hey, it's Passover. You know what I mean? Make sure it's good food tonight. All right.
Yeah, I'm not going to say, hey, I'm going to the game.
You should definitely.
I'm there.
You should definitely tweet about it.
Really?
People want to see you. You're a
That I'm going to
good-looking
be
guy.
attending, or that I'm there already?
No,
Or
you should
both?
write a tweet out on Friday morning saying, "Hey, we'll be at the Cubs game today. If anyone wants to come say hello, DM me."
Wow. Thank you for the game plan.
No, people want to see you. You know, look at you. You're the definition of an American success.
Be sure to hit that subscribe
You're
button
like
for
a
Locked On
Kennedy.
Cubs on
Hopefully, you have better luck.
YouTube. This is people's favorite part of the program. And smash the like button on all your favorite
Believe we
Locked
beat
On
it today.
Cubs content, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. And you can drop us a text, 312-834-4634. Thanks for making Locked On Cubs your first listen every day. First full week of the regular season in the books.
You're
Now
like a
make
Wright
your
brother.
second listen, Locked On Fantasy Baseball. I'm going into the weekend down 4-6 in
6 to
fantasy.
4.
How have you been doing?
I'm losing to our fellow Nick Cozy like 11-2.
Ouch. Locked On Fantasy Baseball, hosted by Matt and Dom, and they bring you the best fantasy strategies all season over at Locked On Fantasy Baseball. He's Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. This is Locked On Cubs.